Now, we've all had those times when our minds feel stuck. We can't come up with any new ideas. We can't solve any problems. It's like, it's too hard. Let's just go back to bed, call it a day. Now, what can be happening here is you can be having these moments of cognitive blocks, and these are really frustrating, and they really get in the way of us being able to be efficient and resourceful. But there are things that we can do to start to make them happening less frequently and hopefully not at all, but it's up to you to have those effective strategies to actually be able to overcome them so that you can keep moving forward even when we come up against these cognitive blocks. So I'm going to go through a little bit of what's happening and then a couple of strategies on how we can actually overcome cognitive blocks as well. So the first thing that we need to understand is our cognitive abilities. Our brain really relies on the coordinated activity of different brain regions and different networks, and it's our responsibility to get those neurons and those regions and those networks all firing and working together. The problem is these networks get more familiar with things that we do. So when we do things a certain way over and over and over, they can become rigid or they can become really entrenched in those familiar patterns. And what that does is that limits our ability to think creatively and also to find innovative solutions, because we're used to taking this path and sometimes we might want to take this path or go under or go over. So this is really, where's a lot of this happening? A lot of this is really happening up in that prefrontal cortex with responsible for all those executive functions, problem solving, decision making, cognitive flexibility, all of those things. And this taps into a concept that we've talked about as well, which is cognitive overload. And that's really something that can contribute a lot to these cognitive blocks. And this is when we're overwhelmed with excessive information or tasks. We've got too much on our plate. Our cognitive resources, they become strained, and that diminishes our resourcefulness. And the reason is we've got a limited capacity to process information and to do tasks. And when we try to exceed that capacity, which, let's be honest, we try and exceed it pretty regularly, this stops our ability to come up with new ideas, solve problems in different ways. It stops our ability from being able to take that less traveled path, because everything is saying, no time to explore, just go down the path that we've always used. I don't care if it's not the right one, just use that one because we know it. I don't have time to think about anything else. And have you ever been in those situations? No, I don't have time to think about anything else. Just do the thing that I asked you to do. So managing our cognitive load becomes really important for being able to maintain resourcefulness and efficiency as well. So how can we overcome these cognitive blocks? How can we keep those mental gears turning smoothly? Well, cognitive flexibility is the answer to cognitive overload, right? This is our ability to adapt our thinking and shift between these different concepts or these perspectives. So we really need to embrace different viewpoints and explore different possibilities more often, more regularly, so that we are able to just break free from those rigid thinking patterns and open ourselves up to new ideas when we want to. And the only way that we are able to call on that technique in the moment when we need it is if we practice it beforehand. You don't just show up to the match and say, hey, you know what, I think I'll learn how to play right now. It's not how it works, right? So one technique to be able to go out there and enhance cognitive flexibility is perspective taking, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, especially when you've had an argument or you don't agree with this person, and consider what they're thinking. Or if you're coming up against a problem and you can't find a solution, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Say, well, how would they approach this problem as well? Not only does this broaden your perspective, it also activates mirror neurons, and that facilitates empathy and understanding as well. And all of that mixed up together, it can help us to overcome these cognitive blocks because it gives us a very, very clear framework to be able to access fresh insights and alternative solutions. And that's really what we're trying to do. The thing that I'm doing right now is not working. I need another way. How do I come up with a different way? Let's think of it from somebody else's perspective. Now, another good strategy is divergent thinking, and this involves generating multiple ideas and possibilities, just firing them off, bang, bang, bang. Doesn't matter if they're silly, just throw them all out there. And again, that encourages us to break free from that conventional or that linear thinking, and it encourages that flow of creative ideas. And when you get good at just flowing out and just pumping out these creative ideas without worry of the fact that you might look silly or it might not be the right one, you get better at it. And eventually something's going to pop up and you're going to go, ah, Let's explore that. So engage in brainstorming sessions, encourage crazy thinking ideas, explore unconventional approaches as well. We talk about what do we call it? We talk a lot about crazy thinking and just thinking about things that how do we make the impossible possible? And throughout history, humans have got a really good track record of taking things that were considered to be impossible and making it an everyday occurrence, like flying on a plane, right? So when we start to expand our range of possibilities, this is going to help us to come up with new solutions, and we're going to overcome those cognitive blocks as well. Now, something else that we can do is we can do some reverse thinking exercises and challenges. And what that is when we come up against a situation where we're used to trying and doing one thing, like we're always used to trying and saving money, let's think about what it would mean to do the other. How do I go and spend all my money as fast as possible? What would that look like? And that allows you to dig into it and then put yourself into a situation that you don't want to be in. And then it's also a little bit of fun to say, all right, well, now I've spent all my money on things that I didn't need to, how am I going to survive? So it allows us, again, that different perspective, that different way to look at things. And that's really important. Now, one thing that can hijack this whole process is your emotions. So managing your emotions is really important for overcoming cognitive blocks as well. And that's because our emotional state has a huge impact on our cognitive processes. Negative emotions like stress or anxiety or frustration, they get in the way of us being able to think clearly, and they impede our resourcefulness and our efficiency. On the other way, things like positivity and optimism and joy and fulfillment, these usually tend to make us more willing to explore new possibilities because we've got that nice sense of psychological safety. And so we're able to explore things and we feel like even if I fail, it's not the end of the world. So emotions, negative equal bad, obviously positive, good. And I know we know that, but it's important that we just remember as we go through that all of these things are very multifaceted, and we can go and tackle the big things, but there's also other things happening around it. So we can work on cognitive flexibility and reverse thinking, but we also need to be aware of our emotions because it can hijack everything, right? And so we can do that through mindfulness training. We can do that through emotional regulation training as well. And we just really want to become self-aware so that we can consciously redirect our focus and our to help us overcome cognitive blocks whenever we get stuck in it. So that's what I want to talk about there. All right, the last thing that I want to talk about is external factors that can impact our cognitive performance. And, something that's important here, which is often overlooked, is our physical environment. And now as we move into this sort of blended world between physical and digital, we are noticing that a lot of what happens applies in our physical world also applies in our digital world. So when we talk about our physical world, have you ever really noticed how your productivity and your creativity fluctuate depending on your surroundings? I know people that love to go and work in coffee shops because they get so much done, or back at uni, people would love to go to the library because they know they'll actually study there. So there's different environments and contexts do different things for us. So we want to create that environment that fosters resourcefulness so that we can overcome those cognitive blocks. And some of the ways that we can do that is optimize our workspace by minimizing distractions and adding elements that inspire creativity, such as artworks or plants. So that's the physical world. That's the real world. How can you do that in your digital space? How can you declutter your digital space and add elements that inspire creativity, like artwork or plants? We've got backgrounds on our devices, for example. Even images of nature make us feel better. Things that are green make us feel better. And then we come back out into the real world, and we want to look at things like lighting and ventilation as well. We want to be creating that physical and digital environment that supports cognitive processes, because that's going to give us better focus, better clarity, and a better ability to just even overcome these cognitive blocks as well, which is really what we want, right? Now, why do we want to do this? Well, in our personal life, we get better at problem solving and decision making. We become more adaptable to change, and we become able to solve problems from multiple angles and uncover those hidden solutions as well. Professionally, we're able to be a lot more valuable in teams, and we're able to cope with those demanding work environments as well. So we're more productive, we make better decisions. And even in our social lives, when we start to try and improve these things, we're encouraged to listen to different perspectives and to embrace ambiguity as well. And that helps us to navigate those interpersonal dynamics just a little bit more as well. So have a think about what cognitive blocks are happening in your life. What can you think about that's happened in the last week where you've sort of hit that wall? Have a think about what you were doing. Were you overloaded? Were you in a bad mood? Were you in an environment that didn't allow you to overcome those cognitive blocks? What were you doing? Where were you? And what are the steps that you can take to give yourself the best chance to overcome those cognitive blocks? It only happens if you make it happen. So we need to cultivate that cognitive flexibility. We need to manage our cognitive load. We need to do some reverse perspective taking. We need to regulate our emotions and create that environment that actually fosters resourcefulness as well. So let me ask you this to finish off. What steps are you going to take today to help overcome your cognitive blocks and to help unleash your resourcefulness? Have a think. Try and pick one or two things to put into place today. That's all for now. Bye now.